absolutely lovely, but I still, for me, this is not relevant. It's not relevant for me to come all the way to North Africa to see a particular flavour of Islamic design. It's as if, okay, you've got that pool there, it's as if you drop a pebble in the middle of it, and that's Mecca. And then from that are radiating ripples and ripples and ripples and ripples. And at the moment, where we are, we're looking at the furthest possible ripple away from the centre that's Mecca.
By coming here, we will understand that much about Islamic design. Any element of it, any aspect of it, any compass point of it, okay? It's not about that. I know if we gave them Pakistan, they wouldn't want it.
No. But that's the whole key for me, is that it should not be, it has to be that central point. It's not any of the ripples, be they Pakistan, Persia, Turkey, you know, or Morocco. It's that central point. There is a symmetry, there is a subdivision, there is a geometry to what my feelings are on this concept of Islamic design.
It's not about that at all, and stop looking at specifics just for the moment. And you know your phrase when you show somebody a room, drink it all in. Well, just live it, just absorb it, just stop thinking negative, stop thinking about it on an academic level, and just go out there, wander through it, and be influenced by it.
Now, you see, the problem I have now is that this is absolutely fantastic. It has a very, very strong flavour, architectural textures. If we even try to reproduce this, you know, you've got Theme City, it's not design.
We're not thinking that way at all. We're not thinking, we're just absorbing. We're walking down a street in Marrakesh. It's in an Islamic world. We're absorbing some of that. I'm Irish, I live in Britain. That's a different world for me. I absorb, well, I'm doing things with that. But I'm not living in an Irish theme land. That's not what they want to create.
Behind the apricot colours and the roughly hewn plaster walls, away from the hustle and bustle of the Medina, lies the real secret of Marrakesh. Via a labyrinth of stairs you can access 15th century townhouses known as riads.
Centred around a courtyard, these riads contain some of the finest examples of Islamic decoration, intricate wood carving and geometric mosaics. All very beautiful, but as an inspiration, far too regional for me.
Be able to try and understand this in the right kind of way so that I can then start working with it.
But that brings me back to something you said earlier on about not needing to travel to Marrakesh. You would rather lock yourself in a library and for a couple of months and look at pictures and books and, you know, read up and take measurements and everything like that. And then, you know, absorb all that and dismiss it and create your project, your design.
To me, design is like a language, and you need to have the vocab and you need to have the grammar. And you need to be able to speak it before you can write poetry. I think if you don't know what you're actually doing, I think if you don't know what it actually means and what it meant to people,
You're
it's
such
like
a slob.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, it can work on so many different levels.
I mean, you think of the way that Irish culture is used to decorate pubs and stuff like that.
I've never objected to that.
Well then, good.
But I wasn't about to give up on Laurence. I was hoping he would begin to understand the spirituality of what we were seeing. We took a trip to the main mosque to see the surrounding gardens, a place of contemplation and reflection. We also wanted a chance to appreciate the craftsmanship that Adil and Saima had talked about. So we came to an area of the city to see how ancient methods were still used today. Seeing this work added a new value to materials that I would normally have taken for granted. I was really astounded by what I had experienced so far on our journey.
I felt it was of paramount importance at this point to see how designers in Morocco were fusing East and West. Inside, the room was typically Moroccan, spice-coloured walls, textured plasterwork, rugs and tiles. But rather than a fusion, this room was a collision. 50s Americana met Arabian Nights head-on. For me, okay, this room is absolutely beautiful. It's a very, it's a very, very Islamic room. But as you say, it's also
what makes it an Islamic room?
Well,
you have the tiles,
and also it's the view outside. It's the light pouring in. It's the fact that we're in Morocco. It's this is definitely not something that you could just put into Northolt.
But hold on. Why would you do that? There are things that will go in that will immerse themselves in your head from this visit. No.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. It's not, oh, no, that won't work. Oh, no, I can't do it then.
I sort of know where you're coming from, but I'm finding it too sensual. I'm finding it too exotic. I'm finding it's seductive. And I find that very, very difficult to get a handle on at the moment.
This is just beautiful. I love this. But the really interesting thing is that it could be there's lots of places that this could be. It could be in Pakistan, it could be in India, it could be in Barbados, it could be at the Chelsea Flower Show. But it's nice because that Islamic influence is definitely there with that central fountain. But the other thing is that you're always looking inwards to the central point. Yeah. And a lot of our gardens that we design now are bringing you somewhere different that you can't see beyond. You don't know what's around that wide sweep of the herbaceous border.
That is an incredibly good point.
It's a surprise element. Here there is no surprise element.
So basically what you're saying is that garden design, and to a certain extent a lot of other design, is a lot about fluffage. It's about sort of, taking you in weird directions and about weird routes, whereas that's the simplicity, that's the truth, that's the
It's generally it's about playing a game with
It's as if I've come, I've seen, and I've come away more confused. It's so rich, it's so dense, it's so multi-layered. I still don't feel as if I personally have really understood the root of Islamic design. And so I'm going to go home. I've decided now, I'm going to go home tomorrow. I need to really just do work. So tonight, dinner, dancing, drinking, tomorrow, plane.
Well, I'm going to stay around for a few more days because I still have work to do. I'm absolutely lifted by it, but I want to see more gardens.
Okay, fine. I've got to find the essence. I've got to find, if you like, I've got to find the root of Islamic design. I've got to take Islamic design into a completely new context now. A living room in Northolt at the beginning of the 21st century. The more I look at the books, the more I try to understand it. There's one thing that goes throughout. It happens in Marrakesh, happens in Persia, happens in Pakistan, happens wherever you go, and that's geometry. And what I found was that geometry, Islamic geometry, is all about finding the middle of something. Simplest way of finding the middle of anything is to get yourself a square and then connect the diagonals. That gives you absolutely bang the middle point. From there you can then create a horizontal and you can create a vertical. Now that as a framework can lead you absolutely anywhere. And I found that just by doing that, just doodling away, glass of gin, EastEnders, that on my lap, I'd created something that grew and grew like an ice crystal. It means that I can then start using that geometry okay, I mean it sounds very superficial, but as a motif, or as a lampshade, or ironwork that I can bring into to the room somehow, and it's nice. And who knows? Geometry is the new black.
I'm outside the garden that Yves Saint Laurent restored in the 1960s. It's the most famous garden in Marrakesh, and a garden that's had a huge influence on British garden design over the last few years. Now, to me, it's become a bit of a cliche, and I was reluctant to visit it. It was something different I was looking for. But I was having a conversation, I think, with my mother-in-law, and she said, listen, it's there, and you'd be silly not to go. Even if you don't think you're going to like it, you'd be silly not to visit it. So I'm going to go in and see what I think of it.
This garden is famed for the house, or rather the colour of the house, which is a backdrop to every view. A colour which I expected to dominate the garden, but actually it was surprisingly subtle in its own context.
I've been really genuinely taken with this garden. It's a celebration of exuberance, of passion, I suppose. Its layout and design encompasses French architecture, you see modernist architecture, you see Islamic architecture, and the planting has a relevance to so many different garden styles. It's taking in all these influences and bringing out something that's appropriate for the site, and that's what I'll have to remember and keep with me.
As an end to my journey, I came to a small village outside of the city to see a slower, more humble way of life. This house is centred around an inner courtyard, which is simplistic in style, colour and texture. What it did show me was that the use of simple decorative metalwork, containers and rustic finishes could combine to create a statement of great beauty. At last I felt ready to return, with a design cemented in my mind.
There is a subdivision, there is a geometry to what my feelings are on this concept of Islamic design.
It's not about that at all, and stop looking at specifics just for the moment. And you know your phrase when you show somebody a room, drink it all in. Well, just live it, just absorb.
Pebble in the middle of it, and that's Mecca. And then from that are radiating ripples and ripples and ripples and ripples. And at the moment, where we are, we're looking at the furthest possible ripple away from the centre that's Mecca.
By coming here, we will understand that much about Islamic design. Any element of it, any aspect of it, any compass point of it.